So I wanted to first of all, it's June 29th, it's Friday. And it is the last work day of the first half of 2018. So I wanted to go out with this week of vulnerability with a little bit more positivity. And I am actually feeling a little bit more positive. And so I want to talk about why. So I think part of it is absolutely giving myself permission to be vulnerable in through this video series. But I also think it occurred to me today that the weather is changing. It means I'm outside more. The sun is there. Like there's definitely the seasonal affective disorder is definitely starting to wear off. And one of the things that I struggle with is that the balance of work and me time. And I talk with my clients about this all the time, the importance of doing things that make you feel good. And yeah, and I'm not going to lie, like it's a struggle for me. So what I've been doing with some of my local clients is that we actually meet face to face. And I agreed to do this in part because connection for me is so important. And I feel like it's so much easier to get connection face to face. And so today, one of the clients that I met with, we actually met in the park because it was such a nice day. And it was incredible, the shift that I think meeting outside instead of in the past where we've been meeting in a coffee shop because the weather's just been bad. Like just knowing that we could talk, that people weren't like around, we didn't have to talk quietly because there was nobody around. There were people in the park, but they were doing their own thing and there was plenty of space. And also just being out in the sun and being out in fresh air, just, I think really allowed us both to relax in a different way. And it was an incredible session. And after the session was over, we walked back to our cars and she drove away. And as I was starting to drive away, I was like, wait a minute, why am I driving away? Like, I actually don't have anywhere to go. I mean, I was going to go home and do work before going to get my kids, but I can sit here and work. It's different work, but I can do it. Or I can just sit here and enjoy being outside in nature. And so I pulled the car back into the driveway, into the parking lot, and I went back into the park and I sat down. And again, this sort of sense of vulnerability came up, and I completely know what this sense of vulnerability is because I've dealt with this before. So I grew up in New York City where there's always people, there's always noise. And when I was growing up, there was a lot of fear around crimes and being the victim of a crime. And we were told we had police officers come to our school every year to give us assemblies on street smarts and that kind of stuff. And the message that we were always told was never look like you're lost, never have your back to anything, right? Like you need to know where you are and you need to kind of have full view so that you can see the attacker coming, assuming an attacker's coming. So we were fairly young when we were having these conversations. Now I'm sort of like, I can't believe that they had these conversations with us, but they did. And so a lot of people who grew up in cities and maybe who didn't grow up in cities, I don't know, but a lot of people that I talk to, they have this need to, when they go to a restaurant, sit facing the door, right? And I think a lot of it comes from that, like being in control of the situation, like you can see who's coming in, so that there's like a sense of protection. And so sitting at the park, I was sort of facing this lake, and it was actually the exact same space where I was sitting with my client, but the client was facing me, and we were having a conversation. So I had sort of blocked out everything. I wasn't alone, so she could see what was coming. But when I was alone, I instantaneously was like, I'm not safe here. And because I had had these thoughts before and knew where it was coming from, I was able to stop and be like, right, so I have a choice here. I can leave the park, which was really my instinct, like get myself out of this unsafe environment, or I can find the safety in this environment. And I really wanted to make the choice to do something different. And probably because I was feeling good and feeling like that gave me the confidence to try something different, I was like, right, okay, how do I create the safety here? And instantaneously, the answer came to me. I can go sit over there by that tree and put my back against the tree, because then the attack, like the tree wasn't really big enough, now that I'm thinking about it, to really prevent somebody from coming up from behind me. But at least my back and my body and my trunk was safe against the trunk of the tree. And then I could be, I sat sort of facing so that the lake was on one side, so I could see the lake, and I could also see the front entrance to the park, and I could see the most open space in front of me. So I positioned myself so that the 270 degrees that I could see felt like I was seeing everything I needed to see. And I was able to sit there for 15 minutes enjoying the quiet and solitude, and that is so not a typical pattern for me. I feel much safer curled up on the couch in a blanket. Again, it's about, I just said it feels safer, right? And so part of what I realized is that so much of these patterns that we have, these behaviors that we create for ourselves, fundamentally come down. And I think I've said this before. I'm sure I've said this before. They fundamentally come down to needing to feel safe and secure. That's our brain's fundamental job, to keep us safe and secure and right and living. So when you're in an uncomfortable situation, when I was in an uncomfortable situation, it made it feel less uncomfortable to ask myself, how am I going to feel safe in this situation? And I think in that case at the park, I was able to come up with an answer. There are probably going to be times where there is no answer for feeling safe in that situation. And then the best solution is I will feel safe in the situation by getting out of here. And that absolutely happens as well. But when you can ask yourself that question, like, what can I do to make myself feel safer? I think that shifts the solutions we come up with. At least it did for me. So that's what I want to share. I guess what that made me think was going into July, as the weather's nicer, it gave me the confidence to be like, right, I can actually be outside more by myself. I don't need to be on the couch hiding from in order to kind of, have that self-care time. Like I can have that self-care time outside in nature therapy, as people call it, as long as I put myself into a position in the nature where I feel safe. And that's what I'm planning to do for going forward. And so I hope that makes sense. I hope you have a great second half of 2018. Obviously, I will still be in touch. And I feel like this was a really powerful, for me, realization to end the first half of 2018. And I'm super excited about the second half. I hope you are too. All right. Talk to you later. Bye.